official Arizona state historian. He's an author, folk singer, and humorist. He's been a board member of the Wild West History Association since its founding. He's the author of 22 books on Arizona and the West. He writes a monthly column, Ask the Marshal, in True West magazine, and he's won numerous honors and awards. He was inducted into the Arizona Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, and in 2012, he was selected for the U.S. State Department's Cowboy Hall of Fame tour, a goodwill visit to Kyrgyzstan.
Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan.
To share the American cowboy culture, and now he's going to share some country songs and stories with us.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. If I'd have known you could be such a large crowd here, I would have practiced a little bit. Kevin's my right-hand man here. Little twang. Okay. Oh, magpie, you're an early riser, magpie. You're a born chastiser, magpie. You always wake me up, oh me, oh my. You coyote in the sky, magpie. Some say you're born deceiver, I say. You're a true believer, magpie. Oh, the West ain't ever gonna die, just as long as you can fly. Roam all around these hills like a gypsy, and I don't see what's the matter with that. Your choice is meat or something to eat, I don't have a problem with that. You build a big house with a front and a back door, and you want to be free. Holy Moses, magpie, I am you and you are me. So walk that walk, talk that talk. Sing me a song about a way long ago. Was it out on the trail? You got that beautiful tail, riding on the back of a white buffalo. Say, magpie. Oh, the West ain't ever gonna die, just as long as you can fly. Oh, you hang all around these hills in the wintertime. Why in the heck would you want to do that? If it was me, I'd be out of here, man. Give me a couple seconds and I'd grab my hat. Hey, magpie, you're a pretty bird. You just want to be free. Holy Moses, magpie, I am you and you are me. So walk that walk, talk that talk. Sing me a song about a way long ago. Was it out on the trail? You got that beautiful tail. Did you cut a deal with the white buffalo? Say, magpie. Oh, the West ain't ever gonna die, just as long as you can fly. Now you hang all around these hills in the wintertime. Why in the heck would you want to do that? If it was me, I'd be out of here, man. Give me a couple seconds and I'd grab my hat. Oh, magpie, you're a pretty bird, and you just want to be free. Holy Moses, magpie, I am you and you are me. So walk that walk, talk that talk. Sing me a song about a way long ago. Was it out on the trail? You got that beautiful tail. Did you cut a deal with the white buffalo? Say, magpie. just as long as you can fly. Oh, magpie, you old coyote in the sky. I think I do need a seat. Well, I never thought I'd ever get this way. You get the feeling yourselves there. I got it. If I can get a little closer. There. Yeah. Well, without practice, I haven't done that. I haven't done a show since February 2020. You Coronado kids back there remember Gordon Lightfoot? When it's midnight on the meadow and the cats are in the shed, and the river tells a story at the window by my bed. If you listen very closely, be as quiet as you can. In the yard you'll hear him, it is the pony man. And we're always there to greet him when he wanders into town. He leads a string of ponies, some are white and some are brown. And they never seem to kick or bite, they only want to play. And they live on candy apples instead of oats and hay. And when we are assembled, he gives a soft command. And we climb aboard our ponies as in a row they stand. And down the road we'll gallop and across the fields we'll fly. Soon we'll all go sailing off to the midnight sky. And as we gaily rock along beside a silver sea, there's Tom and Dick and Sally and Mary Jo and me. And the pony man's the leader 'cause he's ridden this way before. And we give a hoop and a holler at Mr. Moon's front door. And then we stop to rest a while where the Soda River lies. And through the slip comes a pirate ship to take us for a ride. Pony man's the captain and the children are the crew. And we go and search for treasure and laugh the whole night through. And when the whole is filled with gold and the sails begin to strain. And the deck's piled high with apple pie, we head for home again. And down the whirling staircase, so swift our ponies glide. You'll be safely in our beds again when the sunbeams kiss the sky. But it's midnight on the meadow and the cats are in the shed, and the river tells a story at the window by my bed. If you listen very closely, be as quiet as you can. In the yard you'll hear him, it is the pony man. We are the children of the open, and we hate the haunts of men. But we had to come to town to get the mail. We was riding home at daybreak because the air is cooler then. Oh, except one of us stopped off at the jail. Shorty's nose won't bear parading, and Bill's off high, it's darkly fading. And all our toilets show a touch of disarray. For we have found that city life bears a constant round of strife, and we ain't the breed for shying from a fray. So shout it out, me buckaroos, and let the desert hear the news, and tell the stars how we rub the haughty down. We're the fiercest wolves a prowling, and it's just our night for howling. We're riding up the rocky trail for town. We acquired our hasty tempers from our friends the centipede. From the rattlesnakes, we learned to guard our rights. And we have gathered fighting pointers from the famous bronco steed. And the bobcat teached us a repartee that bites. So, when some high-collared heron, he jeered the garb that I was a-wearing, well, it wasn't long till we got where talking ends. And he ate his ill-bred chat with a sauce of his derby hat. Well, me married partners entertained his friends. So shout it out, my bold coyotes, leather fists and leather throats, for we wear the brand of Ishmael like a crown. We're the sons of desolation, we're the outlaws of creation, when we're riding up the rocky trail from town. Since the days that Lot and Abram split the Jordan Range in halves, just to fix it so their punchers couldn't fight, and then old Jacob skinned his dad-in-law for 6 years' crops of calves, and he hit the trail for Canaan in the night. There has been a taste of battle among the men that follow cattle, and a love for doing things that's wild and strange. And in the warmth of Laban's words, when he missed the speckled herds, still useful in the language of the range. So shout it out, me buckaroos, and let the desert hear the news, and tell the stars how we rub the haughty down. We're the fiercest wolves a prowling, and it's just our night for howling when we're riding up the rocky trail from town. Patrick Clark. Come in to steal some of my stuff, huh? You got to come and see Buckshot at 3:30. Is it 3:30?
2:30.
2:30. 2:30. Okay. Because I used to watch her when I was just a little kid myself. I was hoping you could come in. This is an interesting story about this film. It was supposed to be, the town was supposed to be in Arizona, but there is no such name of that in this town, and now I can't think of the name. come to me in a minute, and I'll interrupt the song and tell you what it was. Dorothy Johnson wrote this as a short story many years ago, and she called it "The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance." And little Hollywood trivia there, it was the first time James Stewart and John Wayne appeared in a movie together. And there was not the three men, Lee Marvin and John Wayne and James Stewart, not a one of them was other 6'4", I don't think. So, talk about the tall men. But anyway, it was a great film. It never got, John Ford was the director, and it never got the attention it wanted. But it's one of those movies that the Western aficionados know. And this song wasn't even written when the movie came out. It was written later. So anyway, that's about all I can think to tell you at the time. When Liberty Valance came to town, villain folk would hide. Oh, they'd hide. When Liberty Valance walked around, the men would step aside. 'Cause the point of a gun was the only law that Liberty understood. And when it came to shooting straight and fast, oh, he was mighty good. East a stranger came, a law book in his hand. A man, the kind of a man the West would need to tame a troubled land. But the point of a gun was the only law that Liberty understood. And when it came to shooting straight and fast, oh, he was mighty good. Many a man would face his guns and many a man would fall. But the man who shot Liberty Valance, he shot Liberty Valance. Oh, he was the bravest of them all. All the love of a girl can make a man stay on when he should go. Stay on, just trying to build a peaceful life where love is free to grow. But the point of a gun was the only law that Liberty understood. And when the final showdown came at last, the law book was no good. Alone and afraid, she prayed that he'd return that fateful night. That night, with nothing she said to keep her man going out to fight. From the moment a girl gets to be full grown, the very first thing she learns that when two men go out to face each other, only one return. Everyone heard two shots ring out. One shot made Liberty fall. Oh, the man who shot Liberty Valance, he shot Liberty Valance. He was the bravest of them all. Messed up the chords a little bit there, did I? Johnny Cash. This I wanted to do in honor of the occasion. We finally had here in Arizona, and Rolf Flake, cowboy poet from Gilbert, and I know a lot of you are probably familiar with him.
Yeah, you're good.
And anyway, this is one of Rolf's poems. I don't know if Rolf is out performing anymore. I haven't. He used to be on the circuit all the time. And have you seen Rolf for a while?
Well, like,
So, what are you and I still out there doing this for? This Arizona cowboy had a chance to visit once back east. And while he was there, he was invited to a feast. And while he was visiting with the natives, waiting for the fiesta to begin, he was the center of attention, and they all wanted to question him because they know that he was different, and he seemed a little strange. Why, they'd never seen a cowboy come riding in off the range. So they asked about the weather, and it wasn't awfully dry. He said, "Oh, yes, but that I guess I cannot lie." And then they got specific and asked if he could tell just how many inches of rainfall throughout the whole year fell. Well, drawled, I reckon maybe 6 or 7 inches. That would about do it. And they said, my, that's hardly any rainfall at all. That's mighty, that's mighty dry. They knew it. Well, he said, I reckon 6 or 7 inches don't seem like much at all. But let me tell you something. You ought to be there on the day that it falls. I'll give you one more Rough Lake poem, another one of my favorites, because the men and women who pioneered in the West, and especially places like Arizona or God forbid, on the Great Plains, northern plains, they were the bravest of the brave. What they had to overcome out there with the elements and all the kinds of things that could go wrong. Rattlesnakes and all crawling everywhere, drought, storms, and bad crop years, and fires, and everything. And they dealt with it, and they were strong. But there was one thing that really struck fear into the hearts of the bravest of them all, and that was have to go downtown and talk to a banker. Some of you grew up around agriculture, I can tell. I went to see the banker, to borrow me some dough. I went with fear and trembling. I was afraid he'd tell me no. But that old banker, he surprised me. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got a glass eye here, if you can tell which. Well, I'll make that loan to you. Well, I'm sure he had done this before with many an unsuspecting catch. And I'm sure he had won more times than lost, because his eyes were so well matched. How could I tell which eye was glass? Oh, and then I sang the light. It's that one, sir. I'm sure it is. It's the one there on the right. Well, that old banker, he was startled. He said, I keep my word, you'll get that loan, but tell me, how did you guess? Well, sir, says I done it in this fashion. That one there on the right, that glass eye, it's got just a glimmer of compassion. We all these songs we do today. I think I first sang this one about 1958, And at the age I was singing it, I could do those kind of songs because I was the age where guys were trying to do that kind of thing. and so, but someone came along and put together some good lyrics from this song, and I'd like to share it. If you're no longer the age you were back in 1958, 59, 58.
Oh, I remember.
I should have said 1928.
1928.
Yes. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I watch my diet pretty close most of the time. And I don't drink except for a little glass of wine. And I feel fine some of the time. I had some heart valve repair 10 years ago. I used to love me too, love cheeseburgers, but that's no more. And every day I walk a mile or so to avoid decline. I walk the line. I stay away from trans fats and processed foods. I eat nuts and berries and fruits and even roots. I live a quiet life with peaceful interludes. And I eat no dessert except yogurt. I find it very, very easy to be true. I don't fool around like I used to do. But when I see a pretty gal, I'm tempted to. But my bedtime is 9:30. Somebody got some Gorilla Glue. We could keep this seat keeps moving on me. This is the first time I've ever done a show in my life. I've been doing it since 1963. And I think this is the first time I've ever done a show sitting down or, but whatever. Don't feel sorry.
1853 or 19.
Don't feel sorry for me though. I'm not trying to get sympathy. A rodeo hand is a twister, and you can tell them easy, because even the short one's got a tall walk. They're dust devil damned with a punch of bourbon and graced with big black hat politeness. Their rainbow shirts are like flags in 1,000 arenas. You ever been to a rodeo? The oldest Indian war gods blow smoke 4 ways when they pass. The bronc riders on the big rebel horses, they ride the wild ponies and name them to fit. Big Bear Mountain, Chief Tahi, War Paint, Widowmaker, Steamboat, and 5 minutes to midnight. The calf roper with the fast hands, Jesse James and Billy the Kid Quick, and a rope that moves like an answered prayer. Lives that are gauged in tenths of a second. On the snap-fingered, nimble-footed rope horses. Horse and man working together as though they had traded souls on some prairie night. Steer wrestlers making the long leap from the locomotive train track dogging horses, a leaping reach onto a running steer. Rope horse and dogging team as valuable as diamond hummingbirds. The bull riders were the Brahma bulls and the snide horns meant to smash, and death as an alibi, and the rider outweighed by just 2,000 pounds. Hook swagger cowboys ignoring with a care the adding up of the constant stampede of hurts, always able to go the other further, past the hellgate odds, happily screaming the oldest war cries in the night. For they are the heirs to the last of the Old West. There's a young girl that I know, she just turned 21. She comes from down in southern Colorado. Just got out of the service and I'm looking for some fun. Someday soon, she's going with me someday soon. Her parents cannot stand me, 'cause I ride the rodeo. Oh, they say I ain't your kind, I'll leave you crying. But she would follow me right down the roughest road to home. Someday soon, she's going with me someday soon. When I come to call her, boy ain't got a good word to say. I got a hunch he's just as wild back in his younger days. So blow your old blue northern, come on, blow her back my way. 'Cause I'm driving in tonight from California, and I love that damned old rodeo just as much as I love her. Someday soon, she's going with me someday soon. When I come to call, her pa ain't got a good word to say. Better 'cause it's just as wild in his younger days. So blow you old blue northern, come on, blow her back my way. 'Cause I'm driving in tonight from California, and I love that damned old rodeo just as much as I love her. went to sleep, and
That was Scottsdale.
was it Scottsdale?
The railroad park.
Oh, yeah. And I fell over. The pretty girl at the front row, though, caught me. And,
She was faster than I was.
so I just, anyway, sometimes got to what, I guess I did sit down one time. I don't know why I was sitting that day.
You did say that.
That's why I haven't.
You were kind of half asleep like that.
Yeah.
That's what worries me.
That's what I'm saying. Well, be ready. Be ready, somebody.
I'm close.
Okay.
I know I'm not as pretty as she was.
Anyway, where was I? Oh. Where the rattler coils in the yucca shade. The litter's hues are bright, and the riven sandstone holds the heat through the hours of the desert night. South and south of the Hopi line, south of the Navajo, the shattered walls of a ruin stand, a village of long ago. A cowboy seeking a watering hole that his thirsty horse might drink reins in at the edge of the salt white glare on the rim of a desert sink. He gazed at the ruins banked with sand as he topped a rounded rise, and a vision of ancient Hopi land grew clear to his steady eyes. A painted shard, an arrowhead, the ash from a vanished flame, a roof long fallen that choked off the rooms, a village without a name. He thought of the hopes and the joys and the fears that these patient people knew, lost in the vagrant sweep of time, believing their gods were true. They prayed for rain, Puncher said, and I reckon if I knew how, I'd rustle up a little prayer myself, because we could sure use a little rain right now. And then he found a bead, a turquoise bead, blue bright on the glittering sand. And he visioned a dusky Hopi maid, a beauty in Hopi land. When the long dry canyon riverbed was cool with constant flow, and she swayed to the brimming Oya's weight on the well-worn trail below. And what if the puncher went to sleep in the shade of the ruined walls while his pony grazed the noonday sun neath the bright blue sky o'er? And what if he dreamed of the Hopi folk in their ancient rain prayer dance with symbols of the turtle, the snake, and the gourd, and the lightning's broken lance? Then the far hills shouldered a thunder's head, and the light grew dim and strange, and a shaft of blue went hurtling through, and it echoed across the range. The cowboy opened his sleepy eyes, and he gazed across the plain, a storm-black cloud on the desert rim, and the welcome tang of rain. He thought of his homestead down the creek that cracked in the thirsty earth. He thought of his homestead gone weak, the season's drought and dearth. The withered truck of his garden patches had fought with the summer heat. And then he smelled the rain, and the smell was cool and sweet. Later, snug in his cabin, built a fire, had supper, and rolled smoke. Then he stood in the doorway and he looked at the storm, and he thought again of the Hopi folk. He searched his pocket for a match, and he found in his hand instead a thin blue ring, turquoise bead, and a jet black arrowhead. Henry Herbert Nibs. My time's about up. I'm just getting warmed up.
You're good for about 5 minutes.
Okay. I had a couple more things I wanted to do. Everybody's busy with this genealogy stuff, and I'm even getting people that write me at True West magazine and want to know if I can do their genealogy for them. And, it's a little bit out of my line, but I did get an interesting letter from Texas. My family, my mother was from Arkansas, and my father was from Texas, and my dad's people had come from Arkansas to Texas about 1840, and they were down around the Nueces River, right in that area where the dispute was that started the Mexican War. They had a ranch down near where today's Pleasanton, Texas is, and they lived in Texas, or my father's family came from Del Rio, Texas, after about 1918. They came to Arizona to pick cotton, so I'm one of the cotton picking Trumbuls, I guess. But anyway, my dad never even finished grade school. Go work in those cotton fields in 1918. But anyhow, we got this letter. They said, Marshall, we understand you're a state historian, and we're missing a Trimble in Texas who left Texas in about 1880, and he came to Arizona, and we lost track of him. Nobody ever knew where he was. Heard from him again, and we just kind of wondered. We wondered if you could look it up for us. And we're having a family reunion, and we'd like to talk about whatever happened to Grandpa Nimrod, who left Langtree, Texas, went to Arizona in 1880 or so. So I said, well, I'll see what I can do. So I went down to the library and archives, and they came back with a short little message for me. Said, Marshall, this is all we could find on him. And I said, looked at it, and it said, Nimrod Trimble was a horse thief and a cattle rustler and a train robber. In 1885, he was sent to the Yuma Territorial Prison. And he escaped 2 years later, and he robbed the Southern Pacific Railroad 6 times. Pinkerton detectives chased him around for a year or so, and he died in 1889 when he was hanged. Well, this is kind of hard to put to people like that. These are Southern Baptists. They don't believe in sex because it might lead to dancing. So I had to do something. So I've been state historian now since 1997, I think it is, and I don't get paid for it. It's all thanks to Maricopa Community Colleges. They cover my money. I mean my expenses doing all this Arizona state historian stuff. And I thought the governor owes me he owes me a favor. And I said he's got all these smooth writers down there. These political guys that can write a story and cover anything, make it look good. And so I went over to the governor's office and I said, I got this. This is not something I can send to Texas. Have you got one of these writers here on your staff who can make this look a little better? And he said, "Oh, that's no problem for us." So anyhow, he said, "Come back tomorrow, Marshall." So I came back the next day and handed it to me, and here's what it said. Nimrod Trimble was a famous Arizona cowboy. His business empire grew with the acquisition of expensive bovine and equine and bovine assets. And he had intimate dealings with the railroads. Beginning in 1885, he devoted several years of his life to service at a taking leave 2 years later to resume his dealings with the railroad. In 1887, he was a key figure in a vital investigation conducted by the renowned Pinkerton Detective Agency. He died in 1889 during a public ceremony being held in his honor in the platform upon which he was standing collapsed.